Yes. So probably what did we discuss last time? Last time we discussed about system study. Okay. Unit 2 rather consisted of all these, where last time we discussed with study of systems, wherein we tried to develop the standard operating procedures for a dairy industry, how we looked into each and every of the processes. We identified the major processes, then we looked into the different activities that are included in each of the processes. Okay, and that's where we listed the the activities in the processes, and we came up with a standard operating procedure, okay, where a system could be set to look into the operations of producing pouch packed milk. So that's where we looked. And again, we also looked into the writing of SOPs with respect to, I believe, yes, issue of I-cards to the students of any college, right? So that's where we came up with a list of standard operating procedures. So we're one manufacturing organization and one service organization. Now, we start with Unit 3 as such. Unit 3 deals with a study of at least 5 systems, okay, and the underlying procedures with respect to the system. So that's where today we will be discussing about stock taking system in a library, right? So everybody is aware about, like everybody has visited a library, okay, where you get the books issued of your choice. It could be with respect to the library of a college or maybe any other library where you issue other books for reading purpose, right? So can you think about how should the library system be, or how could a system be developed for a library in order to ease out the process of stock taking as such in any of the libraries? So that's where I have come up with 5 points. Okay, now you will be essentially looking into now our topic or developing a system. It is all about stock taking system that we are going to study as such in the library. So what goes into designing of this stock taking system as such into the library? I have come up with 5 points. Okay, and I would like you all to discuss on the same. So these points are available resources, okay, then a plan. How would you develop or come up with the plan? So first of all, you have to think about what is available in the library. Then you will be coming up with a plan as to how the stock taking system will be carried, how the stock taking will be carried out in the library. So that's where we'll be building up the system for the same. Then what are the different what you can say stakeholders as to whom you will be communicating that you will be carrying out the stock taking system? So who are the stakeholders to whom the necessary activity has to be communicated? Then how are you actually going to execute it? So there has to be a procedure, or there are certain steps that you have to think of in order to come up with the execution process as such. And then essentially we look into the documentation process, like what documentation will essentially go into the stock taking of a library. Okay, so that's where I give you 10 minutes. Okay, you can think across these lines, these 5 points, and then you can come up with your own what you can say thought process as such. So we are not going to uh, group ourselves in breakout rooms, but you can always raise your hand and come up with the points one by one, right? So you have to think from the perspective of as if you are a person who is entrusted with the duty of taking the stock of a library. Yes, so you all can start thinking across these points, and then we can come to the discussion. In case you are having any doubts, you can come up with the doubts as well. I'm there. So that's where I repeat, when I say available resources, it is with what resources will you think about utilizing while deciding taking the stock in the library. Okay. Then what will essentially go into the plan for stock taking? Who are the stakeholders to whom or with whom you would be communicating? Then the actual execution process. Okay. And what is the documentation that will be required in order to take the stock taking? Yes. Can we start? So when we speak about stock taking, what are the available resources with which we would be working in a library? Yes, someone has put something in the chat. BOL. Okay. So what are the resources? Can anybody come up with the resources with which we will be working in a library for stock taking purpose?
Books.
Okay. So books. Okay. Are the books a resource that is available with which we will be working? So when I say resources, I mean with what exactly you will be carrying out the stock taking system. We will be taking essentially the stock of books. So the activity is implemented on books. Yes, but with what? What are we going to consider while doing the same? Yes, anybody else? Okay. So essentially, the available resources with which we will be moving is, we will have to consider the number of staff that is available in the library to carry out the stock taking system. We will have to consider the duration, okay, within which we have to take the stock. Okay, and then of course, yes, before taking the stock, we have to know what is available in the library as such. So that's where a complete list of available books in the library would be required before we begin with, or before we come up with a plan for taking the stock taking. Now we all are aware that each of the books in the library, whenever the book is issued, there is a certain number, accession number we call it, or a coding number which is given to each of the book, and this coding number has to be mentioned, okay, on the card, which is kept within the books for issue purpose. So that's the manner in which probably the books are arranged in the library, right? So the essential available resources with which we will be starting our activity would be the list with respect to the books maintained by the library along with the coding numbers or accession numbers, then the necessary human resources with which we will be working, and essentially the time that we have in hand. So because whenever we are taking the stock, we cannot issue the books at the same time because the entire staff will be involved in this activity. So that's where we have to consider for how much duration the library can be kept closed, so that the stock taking activity can be carried out continuously without any disturbance, right? So essentially the resources would be the list of books, the non-teaching staff, and the time in hand. Now, can anybody come up with what could be the plan that we would be looking into after knowing the resources? Let us consider the library of your MBA college or institute. So how would you come up with a plan for the same? Imagine that you are a person who is in charge of the stock taking, or you are the librarian.
Hello ma'am, Nikhil here.
Yes.
करंट सेमिस्टरचे बुक्स अवेलेबल करून ठेवणे प्लॅनिंग, कारण मोस्टली स्टुडंट्स करंट सेमिस्टर किंवा करंट इयर्सच्या बुक स्टडी करायला येणार.
हां, थोडं जोरात बोलाल तुम्ही?
करंट सेमिस्टर किंवा करंट इयर्सचे बुक प्रेफर करायला येणार, रेफरन्स बुक्स आणि वाचायला येणार आणि बघायला येणार.
Yes. Okay. So accordingly you say you will be preparing the plan. Okay. आपण कशाचा प्लॅन करतोय हे लक्षात आलंय का तुमच्या? बेसिकली तुम्ही करंट इयर किंवा करंट सेमिस्टरचे बुक्स वाचायला येणार असं तुम्ही म्हणालात. आपण काय करायला घेतलंय? What are we into? We are taking the stock of the books in the library. Library मध्ये जेवढे बुक्स ठेवलेले आहेत ओके, जे आपल्या रेकॉर्ड्स मध्ये मेन्शन केलेले आहेत. रेकॉर्ड्स कसे मेंटेन केलेत? हाऊ आर द रेकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन? अलॉंग विथ द एक्सेशन नंबर्स, राइट, कोडिंग सिस्टम में. So now we are going to check whether the records that we have maintained are the books in the library present as per the records that we have maintained. So आपल्या रेकॉर्ड मध्ये जेवढे बुक्स दाखवतात तेवढे सगळे लायब्ररीमध्ये आहेत की नाही याचं आपण स्टॉक घेणार आहोत. ठीक आहे. So when you answered with respect to current year or current semester books. So what are you trying to say now? काय म्हणायचंय तुम्हाला? की हे बुक्स बाजूला काढून ठेवायचे करंट सेमिस्टरचे? We are talking about plan. No issues, you can go wrong. काही चुकीचं काही बोललात तरी काही प्रश्न नाही. ठीक आहे. लक्षात आलंय का तुमच्या आपण काय करणार आहोत ते आधी? राईट. सो नाव इफ यू गो टू प्रिपेअर अ प्लॅन, ओके, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हू विल प्रिपेअर द प्लॅन? तुम्ही जसं म्हणालात त्याप्रमाणे करंट सेमिस्टरचे किंवा याचे बुक्स हे आयडेंटिफाय करायला लागतील, बरोबर आहे. पण त्याच्यासाठी काहीतरी प्लॅन तर बनवायला लागेल ना, कशा पद्धतीने कॅरी करायचं हे सगळं. हाऊ आर वी गोइंग टू व्हेरीफाय द बुक्स? सो फर्स्ट अ प्लॅन विल बी प्रिपेअर्ड. ओके, now this plan will be prepared by the librarian or the person who is in charge of the library with respect to stock taking activity. Then what do we essentially consider is, say for example, this library is meant for MBA only, right? So then you will have to come up with the entire set of books that are available for different specializations along with the common subjects that are there in MBA, right? So specialization wise books, and as you rightly said, not only the books, now in one specialization with respect to one subject or one course as such, what we call it. So we need to identify whether these are the reference books, these are the textbooks, whether there are any magazines that are available, any like publications with respect to research that are available. Okay, so we will have to have a complete plan with respect to the stock taking of all the books that belong to a particular specialization, and then in that specific specialization again with respect to the subjects that go into the specialization as such. Okay, so अशा पद्धतीने तुम्हाला प्लॅन करायला लागेल की वेगवेगळ्या स्पेशलायझेशन वाईज बुक्स व्हेरीफाय करायचे आहेत का, आधी रेफरन्स बुक्स आणि टेक्स्ट बुक्स आणि नंतर बाकीचे बुक्स अशा पद्धतीने करायचे आहेत. सो काहीतरी प्लॅन असला पाहिजे दॅट यू आर गोइंग टू फॉलो, राईट? And then number of subjects. So if you are decided to go specialization wise, what are the number of subjects that we will be covering in a day? So a plan has to be ready with respect to the daily tasks that will be involved in the stock taking system of the library. Okay, now no doubt you will decide, you will come up with a plan, but then that plan will also give you how much time. So that's where एकदा अशा पद्धतीने तुम्ही विचार केलात की कशा पद्धतीने आपल्याला बुक्स व्हेरीफाय करायचे, स्टॉक मध्ये व्यवस्थित आहेत की नाही as per records. So that's where you will come to know ki what is the time that will be required to carry out that activity. And then if you want that this stock taking activity has to be continued, okay, on a regular basis, then you will have to identify किती दिवसांसाठी लायब्ररी आपल्याला बंद ठेवायला लागणार आहे, how many days, right? So that will be identified after you prepare the plan as given in point number 1. Okay, then now if at all, so first of all, if you decide to keep the library closed for a few days, accordingly decision has to be made and a declaration has to be given. But then if you feel that no, it is possible for you to issue certain books, essentially one person will have to be engaged throughout in order to see to it that the issue of books is also taking place side by side. Okay, so you decide then which are the racks that will be inaccessible to the users, okay, due to the stock taking activity. म्हणजे ठराविक रॅक्स मधले बुक्स मिळणार नाही. So accordingly then you will have to declare, you will have to communicate, okay, that these specialization wise or these are the racks or these are the cubicles into which the books of from these shelves will not be available to the users from these many days. Accordingly the communication have, yes, but then the remaining racks it's possible for you to pick up the book. Okay, so accordingly it has to be mentioned in the notice that is being put up or circulated, or the messages sent on official groups. Now nowadays we are having WhatsApp groups, so accordingly communication has to be made to the students as well as to the faculty members to see to it that because of the stock taking activity there is no hindrances that are observed in the college activities as such. Fine, so that's where you come up with a plan. Yes, then the next point that we looked into is communication. Come on now, you all tell me what communication you will have to make and to whom, who are the stakeholders. So what and who of communication is what you all are going to discuss. Yes, I have made things easy. Come on, what goes into this? Communication has to be given to the right people. Okay, that is point number one. Communication has to be made with respect to not only the duration of the activity, with respect to the issue and return of books. Okay, that is the library main activity. Then accordingly, the people that would be required to take up the stock taking activity, and also you cannot decide, a librarian cannot decide on an own to take it, that will be taking the stock of the library. So this decision she can decide, but then this decision has to be sanctioned by one of the authorities of the college. Only then she or he can communicate with the stock taking activity as such. Okay, so that's where when we speak about communication, okay, communication should be going to the users. Okay, now this can be done by way of a circular that will be rotated throughout the classes, or it could be put on a regular notice board where the students are required to view the notice board, and or it can also, the same notice can also be, a pic can be taken and it could be communicated through a WhatsApp group as well. Okay. Then before taking the stock taking activity, what is most important to be communicated to the faculty members as well as to the students is that whatever books have been sanctioned to them for a specific period, these books have to be returned by them before the activity starts. Why? Because the entire list of books that we will be referring for the stock taking activity, it will include the books that are issued to the students as well. Otherwise, while taking the stocks, you will unnecessarily, you will be preparing a list of books that you were not able to find because they were issued to the students. Right? Okay. Then again, if you want to complete a given task, say in a week, in 5 days or in 2 days or 3 days, then a list of supporting staff will have to be prepared, that this is our plan that has been prepared, this is our schedule, these are the specializations or the racks or the cupboards or whatever that will be going through day by day. And that's where we need the following staff to be engaged in this activity. So again, for the supporting staff, you will have to get the necessary sanction from the right authority. The right authority is the dean or director of the college. So a sanction has to be received, and whatever notice or communication you will be doing, that has to be essentially signed by the HOD or director, that will communicate that the higher authorities have given their sanction in order to carry out the stock taking system in the library. Right? Yes. Okay. Then we look into the actual execution. So what goes into actual execution? तुम्ही ठरवलं की लायब्ररीमध्ये ज्या बुक्सचा स्टॉक आहे, राईट, तो आता आपण 1 बाय 1 बघणार. तो कशा पद्धतीने तुम्ही ते प्रोसेस स्टार्ट कराल, किस तरह से आप ये वेरिफिकेशन प्रोसेस चालू करोगे, लाइब्रेरी का स्टॉक टेकिंग आपको लेना है, right? So you will start essentially on the decided day that you have communicated to everybody, right? The verification process will start along with the resources जिसके साथ आप stock taking activity conduct करने वाले हो, right? So it will start with the resources, that is the necessary staff, the documents, okay, and the concerned authority. Now, many a times the verification process is done, and on a regular basis, say after 2 hours or 3 hours, that's where the librarian will be on an ongoing basis informed about the stock taken by the staff members. Then, before starting, the access to the users of library has to be restricted. So essentially, you will have to close down the doors of the library and say no as per the communication made to the students. Then one more point in execution is rearrangement of books can also be scheduled along with the verification process. So initially, say for example, a book library shelves are being arranged as per the semester wise subjects that are there with respect to the ongoing semester. Okay, in case they decide to make it subject wise and not semester wise, so whatever arrangement has been decided, or say first year and second year wise, or first sem, second sem, third sem, and fourth sem wise, so in case the previous system that was being followed needs to be changed for ease of access, so accordingly, if the rearrangement of books has to be made, it can be done side by side along with the verification process when we are doing this in manually with people. Okay. Then, so once this has been planned for, and then when you start, the staff involved would verify all the details. So you have to prepare a list. Proper instructions are required to be given as to what are the things that the staff will be essentially looking into in the verification process. So that's where they start with the list, which has the details of the accession number of the book, the author, the edition, okay, the publishers, and so on. Then the verification sheet has to be attested. So once the verification is being done with respect to the list that is provided to the staff, that's where it has to be signed by the person who has carried it out. So in case any lacunas are being observed, then you can catch hold of that person saying that you have verified that this book was there, but now it seems to be missing, right? So what was the status prior or after verification? Then the slow moving books. Now, what do we mean by slow moving books? Now, there are some books in the library which are not at all utilized by the students or by the faculty members even. Okay, maybe these books have become outdated on account of the latest changes that has been incorporated in the syllabus of the different subjects and so on. So accordingly, these books are not being used and much, and that's where they go into the slow moving category. So as the name suggests, these books are not on a frequent basis referred to by the books, and they remain in the library consuming the, what you can say, very precious place of the library, which can be used by the other new editions that will be joining in. Right? So the slow moving items, now you can decide, each and every librarian or institution will decide what do we mean by slow moving item. Is it the book which has not been issued for past 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and accordingly. So such books can be removed from the library, and that's where new, what you can say, place could be generated for the newer editions or the newer subjects with the necessary amendments, say in case of subjects like legal aspects of business. Okay, yes. Then there could be certain books that, due to on continuous usage of books for years together, there is depreciation in the books that you are using. Now this depreciation could be in the form of torn pages or binding set very loose. Okay, so anytime the pages can come off, or where the print of the books is getting affected. Then what can be done? These books can be separately identified, a list could be prepared, and in case these books are those which are used by the faculty members and by the students on an ongoing basis, what could be done is these books could be replaced by new books, right? So this is how the entire stock taking activity can be carried out. The actual execution of the stock taking activity can be planned for. And then we look into the essential documentation that will go along with this activity. So what is a documentation or the lists that we will be procuring or preparing? So list of staff that will be requiring, getting it sanctioned from the authority. Okay. Then stock verification sheets, where each and every staff is required to do the verification and sign on the requisite sheets. List of books that needs to be amended. List of books that can be mended in not in a good reading condition. Say pages are torn or binding is sitting loose, and list of books that needs to be replaced. So accordingly, we will be coming up with these documents or with this list as such. Now, this is with respect to the stock taking manual process, in case we think of a manual process for stock taking system. Now, how has this changed in today's scenario? So now that's where there is a research paper which discusses about what are the practices, okay, that are being followed in the academic libraries, or what should be the practices that could be followed with the radio frequency identification technology, right? So let us look into what this research paper is trying to tell you, what the research is up to. Okay, now that's where you can see the device. So let us look into the bits of this paper, what research is being carried out. Now the services of the traditional library over the period of time that we discussed right now about the manual stock taking system, okay, and the other services where n number of staff was being involved to issue the books, to receive the books, and to maintain the books in the library. Now this traditional library system is declining. So that's where much of the emphasis is being used on the IT or information technology, which is used as a means of providing easy access to the information resources, okay, and for ensuring improved library services. So this is how things are changing day by day. Now, in order to empower the library users and to maximize the use of library resources, the libraries nowadays, they have started implementing a self-service system as such, okay, which makes the library resources available to the users for 24 hours and all the days a week, that is 24/7. So that's where, or due to this 24/7 service, what happens is books are frequently lost or they are misplaced when they are returned. So that's where stock taking is an important library operation that will help to manage the collections and keep the track of the library resources. Now, in case this stock taking activity is not done on a frequent basis, then what will happen? It will result in users' complaints as well as frustration due to the unavailability of the right stock of books, okay, that the students, faculty members, and other readers might be needing desperately to refer to. So now, with current technological scenario as such and the changing perception about information and the information system, what has become as such important for libraries is to understand the changing scenarios, accept the current trend, and work proactively to handle the different situations. So time has come, we can say, for the traditional libraries to automate their services and try to disseminate the information using new technologies. Make the information available to as many stakeholders as possible. And this is possible through the use of information systems, new technology set in place with the help of radio frequency identification technology, right? So that's where RFID is a new generation of auto identification and data collection technology that will help to automate the business processes, and that will allow the identification of large number of tagged books. So where each and every book will be carrying a tag, okay, to represent its identity in its existence in the library. And now these labels are being identified by using the radio waves that are available in this RFID. So that's where RFID is a technology which is slated to replace the barcodes in library applications. The technology, though new to the libraries, it has been in use in many sectors as well. So it wasn't introduced initially to the libraries, but yes, it was introduced in the other sectors where the antenna that were available, they were able to catch the information from the barcodes with respect to the availability of inventory items that were being located in the warehouses, right? So the same processes can be again technology. That was a thought process which went on in where RFID was being introduced. So RFID based library management system, thereby it would allow fast transaction flow for a library, and it will provide immediate and long-term benefits to the library in traceability as well as the security of the books and other resources. So that's where nowadays the libraries have begun to adopt the RFID as a data acquisition and storage system as well that provides accurate data without human intervention. So now that's where we can see this is the one that device is being used not only to identify the books, but it is also useful at the time of issue of books, and that too without the presence of the stock. So now let us look into the, what you can say, everybody is aware of, everybody has been to Big Bazaar, or they have been to DMart as such. Yes. So now that's where again RFID technology is being used in order to trace the items that you have purchased. So that's where when you stand for the billing of the list of items that are procured by you, RFID technology identifies the barcodes of the respective articles, and that's where they get added to your billing. So the same technology is being utilized over here. You can see the device that is shown in the picture. Right. So now can anybody come up with the what you can say, the advantages of this system in comparison to the old system that we discussed about, the entire plan, the manner in which things will be taken up in library stock taking? What could be the benefits? Think of the benefits. Meanwhile, we will essentially look into the components of this RFID, right? So now RFID has 4 component parts. First is the tag, the reader, the antenna, and the server. Now the tag is the part affixed to the library material. It contains the microchips that are programmed with unique information, and the size of the tag depends on the antenna, which increases with the range of tag and decreases with the frequency. Now tag is the data carrier of the RFID. it contains the unique ID number that is programmed into the item. Right? It will consist of a small integrated circuit or silicon chip, as we call it, which allows for the unique identification of the tag and an antenna that can send and receive the radio waves. So the antenna connected to the reader, it emits the power and signals to and from the RFID tags. Right? So many libraries, they use barcodes and library management system that identifies the books by reading the barcode using the scanner. So as a part of technology implementation, RFID is affixed in every library book and reading materials. The information is entered into the software installed in the server. So when a book is issued or when it is returned, the RFID reader from these tags will read the information that is relating to that item, and it transmits the data into the software where the issues as well as the receipts gets recorded. Okay, every time the book is issued out or returned to the library within a few seconds. Now, in case the user, as the user takes the book outside the library, the antenna that is mounted at the the library gate, it automatically reads the information that is contained in the RFID tag to know if the book was properly borrowed. Properly borrowed meaning it was being scanned and it has been included in the list of issued books of the library. Now, in case it is not properly borrowed, okay, it's not scanned by RFID, then it triggers an alarm that will indicate that the library material is being carried out unofficially. Okay, so that's where the use of RFID technology in not only the daily operations of the library with respect to issues and receipts, but also it can help in stock taking of the library activity, wherein the number of resources in terms of the library staff or the other staff that will be engaged could be reduced. Yes, so that's where we can come up with a list of benefits of utilizing the RFID technology in the library stock taking system. So first of all, that's where in comparison to the manual stock taking, RFID will reduce the time spent in the circulation process, okay, because the information can be read by the tag much faster than it is being read by one of the staff members, right? And that's where the same staff can be recruited to do some other work, whether in the library or in the institution. So it reduces the time. Second important benefit is it empowers the student or the user of the book. It could be anybody, the student or the faculty members or a library member, to return the library material without even having to wait in the queue. Okay, it enables the users to borrow the library material even if there is no staff at the desk. So that's where he can do the scanning himself with respect to the issues, with respect to the receipts. So now that's where again it will help the library to be open for, as we say, 24/7 without having the different shifts where we are required to maintain the n number of staff to carry out the same activity. So first was reduction of time. Second was empowering the users of the library or the members of the library. Again, the RFID, it can be read from the book without actually, opening the books and removing the cards, maintaining the details, putting it down, penning it down rather. So this is not required with RFID. It can read the books even without opening them. Again, as I said, that in case the RFID will also try to identify the students or the members who are carrying out the books without getting it identified by the scanner, right? So it will help to minimize the theft of the library property. right? So that's where some RFID systems, they have, we can say, an interface between the exit sensor and the circulation to identify items moving out from the library without being properly scanned. Further, the RFID books can also be used to identify the books and automatically sort the books into different bins, okay, as it has been programmed in the system. So that's where, when we are having on the computers, whenever we are having the entire data with respect to the library, so if we want to maintain the books, as we discussed, as per the subjects, as per the semesters, as per the authors, so accordingly we can decide, and accordingly the different bins or the shelves in the library could be staffed accordingly. So we can have the exact number of the books that are available as per the manner in which we would like to stack up the library as such, right? Yes. So these are, we can say, the benefits and the uses of RFID technology. So that's where we have discussed into the both the manual system of stock taking, as well as not only taking up of the stock, but also converting the entire regular operations related to the library as such with the help of RFID technology. So that's where different universities across the globe, right, in the Western countries, they have started utilizing this RFID technology in their day-to-day operations. So that has helped them not only to minimize the number of man hours, okay, that is the staff required on a regular basis as well as for stock taking purpose, but also to reduce down on the time required to carry out the activity, further reduce down on the duration which the facilities of the library that could be kept closed for carrying out the stock taking, okay, and most important, to control the what you can say, the abnormal losses or the loss by theft, okay, with the help of the RFID systems that are being set up uh, at the exit of the library as such, right? So this is with respect to the stock taking system that in a library in a traditional manner, as well as eventually as in how the library services have progressed over the period of time, how they have been carried out with a reduction in the overall cost of the stock taking of the libraries. Fine. Yes. So that's with respect to one of the, what you can say, systems that we were required to look into. So next time, after the stock taking system, as we have started with unit 3, essentially we'll be looking into yes. So 5 systems are what we will be essentially looking into. So we are done with today with stock taking. Next time we'll be looking into another such type of system as such. Okay, so that's where we can segregate how do we build up a system. Okay, as someone has said it, that a system can be built up. Okay, there are apps available for doing the same, but essentially what needs to be done is chalk out with an entire plan with respect to the resources, time required, staff required, and then that's where the system could be built up with the requisite apps. Fine. Yes, so that's where we stop over here for today. Next time we'll be coming up with another such interesting system. Fine. Yes, thank you, class.
Thank you, ma'am.